How come Cecile's right over there? Shouldn't she be up?
And we're live on YouTube.
See a lot of new faces. So welcome, Nahid. You are new to me. Hello. Hello, Joe. And then let me let Patricia in. Hello, Sandy. Okay, take it away, Mim.
Right, I'm gonna share my screen. 1 second. Pending. It's coming. It's coming. So welcome everybody to the Wednesday Web Jam. Newcomers or regulars or non-regulars, welcome. I would like to, I'm so nervous. Yunyan, could you do this please?
No. I'm not an easy teacher.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mim.
Just before we start, I'd like to let you know that we're recording. We're currently live on YouTube, and we will be screenshotting this session, as well as putting this on our website, as well as on our LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of our social media. So if you don't want to have your face on the internet or on any of our sites, please turn your camera off and your speaker off. Otherwise, please show your faces, because we'd love to see your faces. And yes, so today we have a very special guest. We got Cecile in the house. And Cecile is one of our regular web jammers. I would like to attempt to pronounce her name. Cecile, my apologies if I don't get this right. Cecile Gerwel Proches, is that right?
That's perfect.
Thank you. So we got Cecile in the house, and she's one of our regular web jammers, and she has contacted some of us crew members of wanting to do a jam with us, and this was way back before Christmas. So we finally convinced Cecile to do this with us. So yay! So a round of applause, everybody.
Honored to have you here, Cecile.
And Cecile, take it away. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Mum, for the warm introduction, and to the Wednesday Web Jam crew. I really appreciate this. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I'm based in a business school in South Africa, and I mainly teach and facilitate leaders and aspiring leaders in the public and private sectors in South Africa. And I'm basically teaching on leadership programs and organizational behavior. So I believe that these are fairly relevant areas, especially now as we continue to face the impact of the pandemic in our lives, our organizations, and world of work. And because I'm working with adult learners, I really enjoy that, because they bring rich, diverse perspectives to the classroom. And when I'm teaching and facilitating, I take a systemic approach in understanding leadership in complex systems, in diverse spaces, and from different angles. So basically, I'm not going to tell you today how to be a good leader in 5 easy steps or 2 days, or even tell you that one particular leadership style works. What I do, I facilitate, link theory to practice, ask questions, surface diverse perspectives, and ultimately contribute to try to develop leadership skills of diverse individuals in diverse settings. So that's a little bit about myself. Thank you so much. So what I'd like to do is we're going to start with Menti. If you can please check the chat, and I would like to start by basically getting an understanding into what everybody thinks about the word leadership. So if you go to the chat, please click on the link, and then there's a voting code as well. And you'll have an opportunity to basically enter up to 3 words. What comes to mind when you hear the word leadership or when you see the word leadership? And I'll just give you a few seconds to do that. Okay, and if somebody could just confirm for me as well. Yes, I'm starting to see. So let me give you 30 seconds to please enter what comes to mind when you hear or see the word leadership. Okay, so I'm just going to share the responses because I really love to see everything coming in. And this is what the group is saying. So basically, we're seeing words about vision, absolutely. So vision, that's what leadership is about. Creative leadership, teamwork, strength, counselor, courage, teamwork, people, absolutely, complex, strategy, unity, centered. So that speaks to personal characteristics of leaders as well. I'm seeing leadership styles such as servant leadership stand out. Strong women, authority, yes, so authority comes in as well. Empathy, very important one in terms of one of the leadership characteristics that stand out. Dance, I like that. Teamwork, and somebody's asking, what about following? Absolutely relevant question, which we are going to explore. And we're also talking about force, yes, so that also has to do with authority, and absolutely the right word there is complex. So just to say that leadership is very complex, and if you just look at what you're seeing right now, you can probably see that there are multiple valid, diverse perspectives that stand out. And I think one of the key lessons as a leader is that if you don't engage these diverse perspectives that exist, it's going to be very challenging for you. So we will share this at a later stage, but for now, I'm just going to stop sharing the screen, but just for you to see that already we've got different understandings about what we mean by the word leadership. So thank you for your responses. So the next thing we're going to do, and I'll also encourage you, please, in the chat function, as people have already done, please share, continue sharing as well, whatever comes to mind. Next thing we're going to do is launch 3 polls, and we'll start with the first one. And I'd like you to vote. You should be seeing it right now. Simple question, are you a leader? Okay, let's give you a few seconds to vote. And what I'd also encourage you to do is, as you see the responses when we start sharing, please also go to the chat function and just please tell us what's coming to mind as you see the results. So I think another few seconds just to give everyone a chance. Okay, I think, Mim, we can probably end the poll and share the results. Okay, so everyone, so in terms of the group that we have here today, 82% have indicated that yes, they are a leader. 1 has said no, and 3 are unsure. So I just want to take this a little bit further and please ask you, those of you that said yes, can I ask you, when did you become a leader and what makes you a leader? Can you please share that very briefly with us in the chat as well? So I'll be looking at some of the responses. Someone is saying everyone is a leader for their specific contributions, knowledge, and skills. Similar comment in terms of everyone's a leader in some form, absolutely relevant. And then somebody mentions, my teachers said I was a born leader, and this is an important one. So is leadership something that can be developed? Yes, but some people also probably are born with specific traits and characteristics. Okay, so I'm going to ask Mim to please share the next one. So number 2 follows on from number 1, and this one's going to take it a little bit further. So we're going to be looking at this one. Are you a leader or manager, follower, all of the above or none of the above? Okay. Okay, and thank you all for the responses, very awesome responses that I'm seeing in the chat function. Okay, and some people are saying they never realized that they had leadership skills and everyone has the potential to be a leader. Absolutely correct. And also seeing responsibility, accountability coming through. Okay. Okay, Mimp, I think we can share the results. Okay. So again, 32% said, I am a leader. And then the majority said all of the above. So this is another one to consider basically when we talk about leadership. Is it the same as being in a leadership role or having a position as a leader? Where does management come in? What about leadership? What about management? What's the distinction? And then finally, there's followership as well. So you may be in a leadership position, but you could also be a follower at the same time. You may be in a leadership position, but potentially doing more management than leadership. So these are some of the things we'll discuss shortly. And then Mimp, the last one, please. Final poll. Okay, and I'm just looking back at the chat as well. An influencer by personality and nature. Thank you. So the last one is just to ask you, which aspects linked to leadership do you personally consider to be most challenging? Okay. Okay, and back to the chat as well. I think very important as well as somebody's pointing out, it depends on the context, the goals, and I think that's an important point as well. It's complex. It's not as simple as saying in one situation we do this. Okay. And then of course, I think Manfred is saying we manage finances, processes, priorities. However, we also lead people. And I think this talks to management and leadership. Okay, so I think, Mimp, we can probably share the results. Okay, so it seems that organizational culture is up there. Interesting, 22%. Managing people, 22%. And inner leadership, 22%. So organizational culture is the how do we do things around here. You may be one of the best leaders with the best of intentions, but the organizational culture could derail your efforts. Managing people, so yes, there's the people side of things. And then inner leadership, basically, it's those aspects of yourself, such as your personality, your values, your attitudes, blind spots possibly that we don't see, that could influence us as well. So thank you, everyone. We will also make these results available at a later stage. And I think Smangela is also saying, I feel there's a thin line between being a leader and a manager. Okay, and please continue to add in the chat as well. And for now, I just want to briefly talk you through some key points, and then we're going to do an activity as well. So let me just share screen. So thank you, everyone. Okay, so I've just made a few key points. In terms of a definition, and again, there are countless resources, many textbooks, a whole lot of areas that are focused on leadership. A lot of books have been written about it, but I've just given you one of the definitions from one of the leadership experts, that's Daft in 2018, who said that leadership is an influence relationship amongst leaders and followers who intend real changes and outcomes that reflect shared purposes. And then we spoke a little bit about leadership and management. And what I've done is highlighted leadership, lead, management, manage. So essentially what happens is that management could tend to be focused more on the bottom line, on planning, budgeting, focused on results, making sure we have the right staff at the right time. Also, if you do a commerce degree, they could teach you about planning, coordination, command and control. And then it tends to be expert driven as well, and sometimes focused on the status quo. Leadership, on the other hand, is more focused on the future, a vision, also maximizing opportunities, creating a shared culture, investing in people, also more in terms of emotions, mind, listening rather than speaking to as well, and having the courage to bring about change. And then the other side of the leadership coin is followership. So I think you've got leadership and you've got followership. And ultimately, you need to have leaders and followers to make this happen. It's a people activity. It's not just paperwork. It's not just the leader who takes center stage. And also the focus, there's a new paradigm focused on change, collaboration, humility, not just being this hero leader who takes center stage. And ultimately, there's no one formula for leadership. So we can't tell you, like I said, do this in 3 easy steps. And then again, different situations call for different styles of leadership. So what works in one situation may not work in another. And ultimately, there's leader and there's leadership. So the practice of leadership applies in all settings. And as you saw, it's complex. There are multiple perspectives, diverse stakeholders with diverse perspectives. So some of the questions that we can probably ask ourselves is, if you're in a leadership position, does that mean that you are a leader? Are you a manager? What about those that are not in leadership positions? Perhaps they've got more influence and more power as well. Where does a leader get their power from? So for example, it could be what they call hard power. So because you have that position of authority, people will listen to you, they have to. Perhaps it's because you have the ability to give them rewards, a salary, a bonus, a promotion, or coercion. And then the soft power. So some say, for example, my characteristics as a leader, or I specialized knowledge or skills. So I think that's important as well to consider, where do you get your power from, and then how do people respond? So for example, your followers may comply, they could be committed, or they could resist as well. So you can see it's an active, not a passive relationship. And then ultimately it's about influence. How do you influence as a leader? And then finally, there are personal characteristics of leaders that count. So I'm just going to stop sharing for now, and we're going to move on to something more interactive, which will engage the group. So Mimp, you can get there, and I'll also just explain to everyone what we're going to be doing now. So I'd like you to, this is the part where you pull out the pen and paper, very old school. And what I'd like you to do is, sorry, let me just get there. Okay, I'd like you to take 3 minutes and just individually list interview questions that you would like to ask if you had the opportunity to interview for your ideal leader. And we'll give you up to 5 questions to do so. And then the next thing is, I'd like you to list your ideal answers. What is it that you'd like to hear in response to those questions? So this should be in the chat as well. 3 minutes, please, just to quickly list a few questions that you would ask if you had a chance to interview your ideal leader. So say, for example, maybe you'd like to know, how many years of experience do you have in a leadership position? Or where do you see yourself in 5 years? 5 questions that count for you. And then basically the next part is list the ideal answers, and you've got 3 minutes. Okay. Okay, and we've added the instructions in the chat as well.
So my ideal leader could be like non-existent.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. We can work with that as well.
Okay, but
Okay, thank you. Okay, you've got 1 minute left. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next part, which is very important to follow, but we will also add in instructions in the chat as well, just so that you stay with us. So what's going to happen now is that you're going to be entering the breakout room for the activity to take this further. We're not going to just leave it at coming up with interview questions. So what will happen in the breakout room, you'll probably be with 3 or 4 people in the room, and we'd like you to very quickly select one person who will ask the questions, so basically the questions that you just came up with, and another person who will serve as the interviewee, who will answer the questions. And then the remaining people in the room will basically be observers. And we ask that the observers note the questions, the responses, and also help us keep time as well. Okay, then essentially how the activity works is that there'll be the interview round 1. So the interviewer will start by asking the interviewee questions that were developed, your questions that you came up with, and we're going to ask you to do so maximum 4 minutes. Okay, so, and the interview is, leadership is a skill. We need to answer carefully and get to the point. And then after that, you're going to swap roles. So if you were the interviewer in round 1, you will now become the interviewee, and vice versa. And you'll be doing interview round 2, maximum 4 minutes. And then with the remaining time, which should be about roughly 5 minutes, we'd like the group as a whole to reflect on what occurred, what insights did you draw, what learning. And then the last part of that exercise will be, we'd like you to decide as a group on 5 questions, key questions that you think are worth asking when you interview for a leadership position. And we'd like one of the observers to please go to the Miro board, which the link will be posted in the chat function. It will basically correspond to the room number that you're in, and just list the 5 questions for us. So we will also add these instructions in the chat. I think it should be there, but also just to say that it will be broadcast for you in your breakout rooms. So I'm just going to stop sharing. Are there, and also MIMP, if you could just assist us briefly with the Miro, in case there are any people who just need some insights. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'm just gonna share my screen again. This is what the Miro board would look like. You could, one second, you could toggle here, drag your mouse, you could zoom in. Oh, pardon me. You could zoom in and then you could zoom out. You could add, if you want to add a post-it note, you could do that here. Just choose your color and it will go wherever it, and then you just press. And then you could, all we ask for you is to just type the questions here. Question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And also with your breakout room, that will be your group number. So if you're in breakout room number, let's say number 3, you're going to be in group 3. So that board should be here. So that is group 3. Is everybody clear?
Thank you, Mimp. Are there any questions before you get sent to your breakout rooms? Instructions are in the chat, and as we mentioned, we will also be broadcasting. So essentially, you'll conduct interviews, take turns, 4 minutes each, and then at the end, the group as a whole will reflect. Any questions? Okay.
I have a quick question. So how did you get into the, I clicked the link. Oh, it was never mind. I'll click the new link. Maybe it's, it didn't go into that board. I didn't see that board. That's the
No
problem.
worries.
Okay.
I also want to quickly add that the instructions are also in the Miro board. So you don't need to go back and forth Zoom. So it's just easier for you guys.
Yeah. And also if you're not comfortable using Miro, you can also just write down your questions, old style, pen and paper. So I think we can open the rooms now and send everybody there, and we will see you in 15 minutes. Thank you.
Yes. So opening the rooms now. Cecile, Vipka, and Jimena, you're going to stay in the main room.
Okay. Thank you.
Everyone's going.
I will go to room 8. Peggy is alone there, so I will go.
Yes.
Okay. It's room 8.
The same thing, Jimena, don't leave.
Don't leave us. Stay with us.
Don't leave.
Hi, Anka. In the dark.
And Patrick and Biliana. I didn't write 5 questions. Because I was thinking like not a leader as only one person, but like a group of leadership, and I went back in time.
That's right. So maximum 5. If you had one question, that's also
No, I think
perfect.
that
And then
one-
you can probe as well. So based on the responses, you can take it further. So I'm going to take on the role of the observer, if that's fine with you. And Vibka and Jimena, will you be fine to be interviewer and interviewee?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Jimena,
perfect.
you go ahead with your question.
Okay, so I will start with my first question. It would be, how do you seek challenges?
How do I seek challenges? Actually, I've always been a bit like, I really want to do this, and this will be evolving for some time, and then refining, talking to a lot of people, trying to sense what's in the field. And then it's a bit like in the hero's journey, at some point I will be saying, yes, I'll do it. And then it feels a bit like, oh my God, what have I done?
But how do you do it? Like when you go, I will do it versus I will need these people along to do it together. Because I think it's easy to set yourself on a journey sometimes. But when you have people, I mean, I don't express it right, but like in charge or coordinating, how do you then make them come together with you on that journey you want to jump in?
Maybe a practical example will help. I set up my TEDx team anew. I had to start with a few people that were left from from a non-functional team, and have no new people. And I was about to bury the whole project and say, no, I'm not going to do TEDx anymore. I can't do it.
Or was it BK? Me?
No, I can't bury the project. I have to go on doing it. And I didn't sleep well. And then I thought, yes, but I do need a commitment. I want to do this, but I can't do this by myself.
So how did you move it from the non-functional team to, I would assume, a functional team?
Sorry, say that again.
How did you move it from a non-functional team to a functional team? How did you go from one to the other?
It takes a lot of time and invest. And they needed to believe me because it was a restart, and they had gone through a very bad phase of non-communication and not very caring leadership, I'd say. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to take on that leadership role, because I thought, I'm going to adopt them all. I can't do it. Too much responsibility, too many things I have on my agenda. And this is why I asked them for support and said, I can't do it on my own. So
you feel vulnerable when you mentioned like, I can't do it on my own? Or was it like your last, or were you always open on, I can't do this?
It's like, I have to devote myself to the task and to the team and deliver my, I don't know, it's like a common fate. Once we decide in favor of doing it, they need my signal to be ready to go. And they're waiting for me to say, yes, we're doing this. And I couldn't just say, we're doing it, and I applied for a license, blah, 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 and need such and such people on my team. But for me, it was a big step saying, I would love to do it. I find it very inspiring. And yeah, just say I'm not able to carry you all along and go somewhere. I can't do it. And this is, maybe call it humbleness, because there was no other way of doing it. And it's not, it's just being very open and transparent about my resources, about what I could do, and ask them for a commitment. And it was open. I wasn't completely sure if they would follow me. And this was an adventure.
And when there was a moment that you thought about yourself that you needed time and it was a lot of invest, what did you wish you could have known by then to do better? Or
yeah, it is difficult. I don't think it's about knowing. It's about being open enough to accept setbacks and be open enough about, I don't know, like yesterday we had our first physical team meeting in a year, the first, and it was very, very emotional. So, but there weren't all the team members on the team meeting, and we didn't quite know. And it turned out one of them, she has her own little business, and she would be in Istanbul.
I'm sorry, I'm coming in as, sorry, Vibke. I'm just coming in as the observer role to say that now we need to swap roles. So you will now ask Jimena questions. Thank you.
I have to connect this to a real woman in life, right? Okay.
Jimena,
yeah.
If I want to be the ideal leader, I would ask you first, do you like humans?
Yes, I love humans.
Okay, that was a very quick answer, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, I think that humans, I can expand on it, but so some people get fascinated by seeing the stars and they want to become astronomers or they want to go to the outer space. And I think that for me, I get that amazingness of what humans, who we are as people. So because of like every person is different and their stories and why we are the way we are and what else there is behind of what we see. So I really enjoy that part of getting to know everyone and understand. And I think that part of, I think I've experienced some things in my life that I told myself that I would be more understanding with others, because I wouldn't like me to repeat some things that happened to me. So yeah.
And what I really wanted to ask, if I make the question a bit more elaborate, was, do you like to deal with humans with a whole messy existence, with all the things that go wrong, with the occasion that they will let you down, and do you still like people?
Yes, I think that the last month have been quite hard. And there's a moment like I've been crying back home and at night and even questioning, right? But I think that again, back to we are all humans and we have first of all, like bad days, and also people's comments that they might share because of what they have experienced or background. And sometimes they don't mean it exactly for you. So it's been like a self journey to be strong enough to understand that part, and that hopefully, as you mentioned before, about time and investment and be open, right? That part of it. And because you know that eventually you will get somewhere, you don't know exactly where, but at least better, hopefully, than where you were before. And that journey, it's itself, the process, we also can get to enjoy together and learning. I think that I hadn't worked with more than 5 people or 3, and it was like really easy. But nowadays, when there are like more than 20 or 30 or 40, and reaching even people who I might not even get to see, that's I like it.
Okay, then I will just change my second question, since you gave me a little hint, and it would be like status, talking about status and leadership. How would you, in a situation that you feel you're not the same status as the other person, maybe it's because the day has gone wrong, or maybe the other person is somebody who intimidates you, how would you deal with a situation like that?
Can you reframe it, the question, please? I didn't understand much.
Yes, it's talking about status and who is a leader. Is leadership dependent on, no, wrong. How would you deal with status if you felt in a low status position for what condition ever?
I must confess that what I tried, I avoid being on a role of having a status. Like, I think that, to me, like, the more, I will confess it, like, the more not perceived as someone who might have that specific status or formal leadership, let's say so, I don't like that, because of the context and the culture we currently have. So I try to move away from that traditional position role, and which is also hard, because then that means there's the other part that doesn't take it as important. And but to me, it's like, well, I think we are in the same situation or role, or we've got to go together to reach where to go where we want to go, and we are all important, because there are people who say, oh, well, people don't care about my job, and people think this is not important. I was like, okay, everybody is. So let's just do our best. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm coming. Sorry to interrupt. Coming in again as the observer role. I saw the instructions, so now we need to get on to the Miro board. I don't know if someone is comfortable, and we just need to focus now on reflections. So from Vipka and Jimena, what are the key insights, or what are you thinking right now? We've also got other observers, and then top 5 questions that we could ask our leaders. And I think we have about 4 minutes to do all of this.
Oh my God.
Yeah, me too. We can write on the chat, VK, and then we can put it later on the Miro. But then what would be our 5 questions? How about that?
Yeah. So we've got 4 minutes to do everything. So what were the key questions that, Mimp?
Yes,
who would you like to share Miro screen so people
you
see
can
what
share
we're
my
doing?
screen.
Me
Yeah.
or you?
Yes, sorry. You, Mimp?
Me, okay, yes, I'll do that now.
And then we can discuss with you.
And you guys continue chatting.
True.
So as an observer, I really loved your guys' questions. I thought it was really different and inspiring. And I think one of the questions that I liked was the one about, do you like humans with all their messiness? And I think that's a fantastic question. And it mustn't just end with yes or no. Push them further. And so I think that was from Vibke. And then I think Jimena asked a question about how do you get them to go from a non-functional to a functional team, which I thought was also very nice. From your guys' side, what do you think?
Yes. I loved it from the non-functional to the functional team. And unfortunately, I forgot the other question that Jimena asked me, which I liked very much as well, because instantly put me into reflection mode, that I think, yes, I do have to think deeper into that question, because it's the problems that I've come across with my team, building up this team, and I need to reflect a lot, and that would have been another question: how much time for reflection do I really have, and who do I reflect with, and where do
that's a good one.
Yep, absolutely. And I think the question as well about, can you do it on your own? Because often the assumption is that, the hero leader who comes in, but you don't have all the answers and you need to be humble. I think you mentioned that, Vibke. And yes. Jimena, what stood out for you, Jimena?
I think that for me, it's about, when you said that part about being transparent. So sometimes since when you become transparent, right? Like, because maybe you are struggling and then you're transparent at the end.
Yes. Yes.
So
maybe it's about being
I
vulnerable.
wonder why we take that moment until we're at the breaking point, right? As humans, like, I can't do this anymore. And
Yes.
then
Good question. I think it probably has to do with the expectations, maybe unrealistic expectations we have of leaders, that they've got to do it all, but we forget there's leaders and followers.
Yes. And what I think is, for me, was highly, highly relevant. I was really doubtful whether I should or should not take on this leadership position. And I knew I could only possibly do it if I would liberate and liberate myself of these expectations that I wouldn't ever be able to fulfill. And I couldn't take on the whole burden. I had to share it. And this I would have done by, members saying, time.
Is it 1 minute left, Mimp?
Quickly, that I needed to get rid of as much as I could and integrate the team into the shared responsibility. And that was what I wanted to do, really.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Mimp, is it time to bring everyone back now?
Yes. So
Okay.
I'm going
I'm writing questions here. So
Perfect.
Oh, yes.
one would be, do you like humans with messiness?
Yeah. And there was the one about going from a non-functional to functional team, just while we're waiting for the list.
So
And I think, yeah,
sorry, shall I close the breakout rooms now?
please. Yes.
Yes.
And we can just summarize our questions. And also, Vipka, the one about status differences. So it's like that vulnerability as the leader. How do you deal with differences in status?
Because
is a good one.
I think that's relevant for women, because
Yes.
if you try and adapt to the status game in a men's setting, and I had this morning, it's like you never be able to succeed, because you can't shout louder than them, you can't be bossier, and you don't need to, and this is not leadership.
That's it.
Exactly. And I've been demanded to do that, and I'm like, no. I'm just like, do what you have to do.
Thank you. Mumpi, is everyone back now?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Apologies, I know that feeling. It goes by too quickly, but I hope you all had a chance to ask some questions and hopefully go through round 1 and 2, and then try to get to the Miro board. So I think what we'll do is, before we share the responses on the Miro board, can I just hear from a few of the groups? Can I start with Pedro? Pedro looks like he has something to share.
Do I have something to share?
Yes, please.
About how was it? So I arrived very late to the session, so I had to ask my team, guide me, tell me, what am I doing here? And so I became the guinea pig. So they viewed me, but then we managed to especially to hear to different, so to how I answered and how Howard answered, but also we managed to get more questions on board. And I really like the set of questions, and I don't see how we can nail it down to just 5, because I like too many of those questions. And I feel that together we can build, let's say, a script much better than alone. So I learned quite a lot. I thank you to my team.
Thank you so much. Anyone else want to share with us? Please just unmute and share. And also for those who don't want to, there's the chat function. We'd like to hear from you.
Otherwise, we're going to pick someone randomly.
Voluntold. Arnold.
Arnold, go!
Yes, please.
I was the observer, so, but no, so it was interesting because we had 2 different, I think they were very complementary, the interviews. Well, the first one was more like, hey, what is your background, where you come from, and what is your experience? While the second flow was more of like, how do you interact with the team, and how do you want to be treated by your team? And I think that was like setting up from where do you come from, what is your experience and background, so what is your reference, so what's your framework, and then it's like, hey, how do you put that into practice when you're working with a group? So I thought that was an interesting, and they both lead to interesting conversations. We wanted to go in a lot more of the projects that were brought up, but yeah, there was no time for that. So
yes, thank you. And I think what you see is the expectations, and also if you consider how did their answer correspond to what you wanted to hear, and I think that gives us insights as well. Mimp, I'm aware of time. Can we just share the Miro board and just see some of the responses? Okay, and for those who didn't get a chance to share, please just share in the chat. Okay. Maybe we can take one of the groups. Maybe just zone into group 2's questions.
Who was in group 2?
Anyone from group 2? Could you briefly take us through your questions?
No, group 2 was Patrick and Courtney and Howard and a guy named Pedro. And we
yeah, I can share.
We talked about it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So one of my questions is what is important to you as a leader? So this is trying to investigate the value. Where does the leadership values gear toward to? The next one is, what is your vision as a leader? Because evidently the leader's going to take you to that place where he or she envisions. Another would be, how would you enable your team? Because effectively leaders should be enabling each and every member within the group dynamic to be leaders on their own. And then the fourth one, which we weren't able to ask, one of my questions was, how would you handle challenges? Because some leaders are just very stiff in front of like challenges, and some are really open for collaboration. So it's just, maybe it's investigating leadership styles. And that's it for me. Anybody else wants to share?
Thanks, Howard. Okay, if not, so just to say thank you all for your responses. And I think if you didn't get a chance, please go ahead and add in. We also added in our questions. Jimena, maybe you just want to list our questions quickly before I wrap up. I think it's in the chat, but we also had some very interesting questions that came out that I thought were very different, worthy of asking. I think it's... Well, we've moved so far in the chat, but if you do go back, you'll see some of the questions. Vibke?
Yes, it's like, Jimena asked me, what did you do to make a functional team from a dysfunctional team? How did you go along? And that was really, yeah, that made me think a lot, because it's a lot of time investment. It's a lot of humbleness to go and get them, and I can't just go, I'm not the entertainer, I'm not motivating them or anything. I just have to build up trust, and that takes a while. And yes, it's not a given that they would follow.
Yes.
They need to be convinced, and they need to believe in the common purpose and the common vision.
Yeah, thank you.
Was a great question.
Absolutely. And there were some great questions about do you like humans, with all their messiness? And I just thought that was such a great question to ask a leader. So I'm going to wrap it up, because I think we only have 4 minutes left, but just to say thank you all for your engagement in this activity, and also to please go back to the Miro board add-on. And just to wrap it up and say that, yes, leadership, it's two ways. There are leaders and followers. It's messy. It's not as straightforward. So that's why I'm saying to you again, we cannot say how to be a good leader in 3 easy steps or in 5 days. And also there are different leadership styles. Followers also can respond. They can make your life difficult. How do you get them on board? And there's issues such as the organizational culture. So as a leader, you're walking into an organizational culture, the how do we do things around here? There's a strategy that you may need to implement, but again, there's a nice saying, about organizational culture ate strategy for breakfast. And I think that speaks to the people side of things. So as a leader, how do you work with that messiness? There's inner leadership. So things like your own values, your attitudes, your perceptions, what counts for you, personal mastery, systems thinking, change, a whole lot of aspects that make leadership very, very complex and essentially demands engagement with people and the task. So I think that's really the key, that it's management and leadership, it's task and people. So how you engage that, and that is why we call this developing leadership presence. I hope you can see why you need to be present. So I think that's it from my side. Any questions, any comments? I'd also like to ask you, please, if you can just add in the chat as we're closing, from the session, what's the one thing that stood out for you? What did you learn about yourself maybe, or about the group, or just one thing from the discussion that's really a key takeaway for you? So as we wrapping up, you can just add in, please, in the chat function. And any questions in the last minute or two, questions or comments? Right,
and if you want to ask more questions, we also have the backstage, just FYI.
Yes. Yeah, so for those who are new, please stay on. We will continue at 6 o'clock. So I'm just going to read a few of the responses. Personal leadership style determines your perception. Yes, and there's perceptions and misperceptions. We look at the same thing, but from different angles. And that's what adds to the complexity. Think fast on your feet. I definitely think that's leadership. Team leadership, working with a team. Leadership is not sold in XXL packages, absolutely. So I think there it speaks to your personal style of leadership that you have to develop based on the particular context, your followers, and the situation you find yourself in. And yes, it is a big topic to cover. Usually I take about 5 days, 8 hours a day to talk through it. And even so, we don't get through it. But this was essentially just like a little overview of the different aspects that make leadership such a challenging context, but it's powerful. Okay, and thank you. Lead with questions as much as you can. I like that. So I'll stop there now. Thank you everyone for your participation, for your presence, and especially to Mimp, Jimena, Vipka, Yen, Jenny, everybody from the Wednesday Web Jam, and to all of the participants here as well. I really appreciate this. Thank you. Thanks, Mimp.
So before I announce the next session, can everybody give a round of applause? Unmute yourselves and give a round of applause.
Bravo, Cecile, bravo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cecile, for a wonderful session.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
I was just going to say, I really like the poll and the way you started off, by the way, with the word image. That was pretty cool.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you, Dana.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, I will announce the next session. So the next session is going to be Design Thinking Drop-In at WWJT Bar Beer Pub. Vipka, would you like to announce this?
Yes, sure. When we want to have a light session, as we sometimes do, we make it a tea bar beer pub because we hope there's something in it for everybody. So you can just drop in. And this time we thought, we might just put a frame into the tea bar beer pub. And this is why we said, what is always appreciated, we have the impression, is when people can share something about design thinking experience. And we have very experienced people in this community, and we have just beginners in this community. So we thought what we could do is you bring your questions, or you bring your favorite ideas for ideating or for prototyping, or your favorite tools for online facilitation, and you share with the others, because we've done that from time to time. So this Tiba Beer Pub is just asking the others questions, or maybe going on an exchange and discussing details, whatever you feel like and whatever you need or want to apply. And then you get like-minded people, and it works as it always does. You come as you are, you book a table, which is somebody will send you across the space to a breakout room. And then you have the others in your breakout room and invite them for a discussion. This is how it works. And your feedback is our currency for paying at the counter. So come along, spread the word, tell everybody to come, and we're looking forward to next week.
Thank you, Vipka.
Thank you.
I also want to have a quick announcement that we are now on Clubhouse as WebJam. Just type in WebJam in Clubhouse and you can follow us. And also, for those of you who might not be aware, Clubhouse is now available on Android. So Android users can now use Clubhouse. And yes, it's an invite-only app, so you need to be invited. Right. And thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I'm going to stop.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, this is with the mural. Do we have access to that later, or can we save? Because I didn't really have time.
Yes, you can add
and things of that sort.
That's all right. You can add your responses in mural later on. So yes. Sorry, Miro. It's not mural. Miro. Yes. All right. So I'm gonna.
Okay.
Yes. That's all right. Thank you for your question. Yes, if you have the link. So save the link and add it later. And we're going to lock the Miro sometime. Let's say I'll give it till tomorrow, and then we're gonna lock it. So yes. Right. Thank you really for coming. And I'm gonna stop. The YouTube now. So wave goodbye to YouTube, everybody.
Bye, YouTube.
Bye, YouTube.
Bye.